Hello everybody and welcome back to our coverage of the lore of the Diablo universe. My name is Necroxis. Last time we reviewed the lore of pre-Diablo and Diablo 1. So let's get right into it. You guys all know this shtick by now. Listen to this in the background if you're playing Reaper of Souls or whatever else, and hopefully I can enrich your knowledge of the Diablo universe so you can appreciate it a little bit more than you do right now. So last time we left off, Aiden, Leoric's eldest son, had just finished destroying Diablo's mortal form, but he was still corrupted by the Lord of Terror. Nonetheless, he, in his own corruption-rattled mind, believed that the only way to defeat Diablo once and for all was to plunge his soulstone into his forehead. But of course, like I said, that was Diablo's plan all along. Now he had an even stronger body than before, and he can now go about completing his plan of resurrecting his brothers. Soon after emerging from the bowels of the cathedral, Aiden increasingly began to shun the company of others. Soon only the witch Adria would be able to offer him comfort, and the two spent long nights together. This was not of Aiden's own will, but Diablo's. Adria immediately saw that Aiden was possessed by the Lord of Terror, and pledged herself to his will. Through Aiden, Diablo impregnated Adria, conceiving a child who would be his vessel when the time was right. After leaving Tristram, Aiden became little more than a vessel for Diablo and had a new moniker, the Dark Wanderer. Wherever Aiden went, corruption followed. His first stop was the Eastgate Monastery, home of the Sisters of the Sightless Eye. Unfortunately, one of the lesser evils, Tyrael, was already corrupting the group, and she had joined with the primeval's cause. Passing through, he desecrated the monastery even further, eventually causing a small group of the Sisterhood leadership to flee to a rogue encampment nearby, led by the High Priestess Akara. Eventually, a group of heroes, at the behest of Akara and the remnants of the Sightless Eye, would aid the Sisterhood in cleansing the monastery and killing Tyrael. Still, Aiden headed further east, but not before staying at a tavern overnight. This tavern he promptly set ablaze and summoned demons to destroy. The lone survivor of this attack was a man named Marius, who had fled from the rogue monastery when it first fell. He was beckoned by Aiden to follow him, and for some reason, unknown even to Marius himself, he did. The two traveled across the deserts of Anauroch for weeks before arriving at the port city of Lut-Gholein. Marius would have a dream then, depicting Tal Rasha as well as Tyrael and the binding that kept Baal imprisoned. Telling the Dark Wanderer what he saw, the two then set off for Tal Rasha's tomb. However, the heroes who slew Tyrael were hot on Marius and the Dark Wanderer's heels, and after arriving at Lut-Gholein themselves, set about solving the issues that Diablo's presence had caused. This included stopping undead from invading the sewers, defeating a group of claw vipers which had blocked out the sun, stopping demons from emerging from Lut-Gholein's palace depths, and defeating the same sorcerer that helped Aiden stop Diablo and Tristram in the first place, driven mad by what he saw in there and stylizing himself as the Summoner. As the heroes made their way to Tal Rasha's tomb, Marius and Diablo had already discovered it and entered. As they made their way through, Marius sensed the changes in the Dark Wanderer as Diablo's spirit gained control. Upon reaching Tal Rasha's chamber, Diablo rushed to release his brother, but was stopped by Tyrael, who had arrived as well. As the demon fought the angel, Tal Rasha's crazed spirit pleaded with Marius to release him. And despite his better judgment, Marius pulled Baal's soulstone from Tal Rasha's ribcage and freed him. Before Baal joined the fight with his brother against Tyrael, the angel charged Marius with taking Baal's soulstone to Hell and destroying it at the Hellforge, which would destroy Baal once and for all. Marius then proceeded to flee while the three fought. The Dark Wanderer and Baal would trap Tyrael in the same stone that Tal Rasha had been trapped in himself, and they both left. Shortly after that, the group of heroes following Diablo arrived at the tomb and fought Duriel, another lesser evil who had thrown his lot in with the primevals, the same as his twin sister Tyrael did, and they slew him. They freed Tyrael from the stone and chased the Dark Wanderer, Baal, and Marius, who had followed on Tyrael's orders, to Kurast, where Mephisto was imprisoned. The heroes would actually catch up to the Dark Wanderer shortly outside of the Kurast docks, but he escaped summoning a group of demons. The Dark Wanderer and Baal would arrive at Trevenkel, the headquarters of the Zakharum priesthood and the location of the temple where Mephisto's soulstone was buried. As previously mentioned, Mephisto had already begun partially corrupting the city, but Diablo used his own powers of fear to cause the uncorrupted members to flee or turn upon one another. After hundreds of years, the primevals were finally reunited. Within the deepest chamber of the Temple of Light, the three demonic brothers devised a plan to retake Hell, claim vengeance on the demons who betrayed them, and use their soulstones to finally turn the battle against the angels. They planned on using their corrupted soulstones to corrupt the World Stone itself, which would enslave humanity, whose fate and power, or lack thereof, was tied to it. A gate to Pandemonium would be opened within the deepest depths of this temple, and Diablo took full control over Aiden's body, shedding the pseudo-human form he had left and assuming his true demonic one. Marius had followed the prime evils and had witnessed their discussion from a hiding place, but he could not bring himself to enter the gate to Pandemonium, and instead fled to Westmarch with Black Soulstone, driven to the brink of madness by it, up to and including being thrown into an insane asylum. As for the heroes, they once again helped fight the prime evils by cleansing Mephisto's control over the countryside. They helped reinforce the shield over Cuirass docks, aided in obtaining a book of history on the prime evils, and constructing a flail to destroy Mephisto's compelling orb, controlling most of the Zakarum. As they entered Travancore, they slew the corrupted Zakarum High Council and descended into the lair of hatred. Arriving just after Diablo and Baal left, the heroes fought against and successfully destroyed Mephisto. They then followed Diablo into Pandemonium. The heroes chased Diablo through Pandemonium, dispatching Tyrael's corrupted lieutenant Izuel, and took Mephisto's soulstone to the Hellforge. Using the Hellforge armorer Mephisto's hammer, the heroes shattered Mephisto's soulstone, preventing the primeval from ever manifesting himself in this mortal realm again. Following Diablo to his lair, the Chaos Sanctuary, the heroes activated several seals of power and summoned the Lord of Terror from his hiding place. With Mephisto dead and his soul banished, and Baal having disappeared, Diablo was slain and his soulstone was destroyed at the Hellforge as well, in an attempt to end him permanently. But Baal would not be dissuaded. He was still trying to fulfill the plan. However, with Mephisto and Diablo's soulstones destroyed, the only one left was his own, and that was in the possession of Marius. It was then that Marius received a cloaked visitor at his insane asylum, Tyrael. Marius, consumed with guilt after what he'd done, recounted the story from the moment he met the Dark Wanderer until he was thrown into the asylum. Tyrael assured him that all would be forgiven if he handed over the Soulstone, which had warped Marius into a crippled, elderly form. Marius was happy to hand it over. However, Tyrael revealed that he was not actually Tyrael. He was in fact Baal himself. Marius broke into tears, and Baal rewarded Marius for his honesty, killing him and setting the asylum on fire. With the Soulstone in his possession, Baal attacked Mount Arreat, which concealed the Worldstone within it. He unleashed his forces across the mountain, including a barbarian city of Harrogath, where heroes who had slain Diablo had arrived shortly after. With the aid of a traitor inside Harrogath named Neolithak, Baal was given the Relic of the Ancients, which allowed him to access the summit of Mount Arreat unchallenged by the ancient spirits that guarded it. He arrived at the Worldstone chamber, and Baal successfully began corrupting it. But shortly after that, the hero slew his brothers arrived and killed himself as well, ending the third and final prime evil. Unfortunately, if left as it was, the Worldstone would have cast humanity into the hands of the demons. To prevent it from doing so and negatively influencing the world as well, Tyrael had no choice. He had to destroy the Worldstone. It caused an explosion which destroyed the mountain in Tyrael's physical form as well. Although Tyrael had saved humanity for a second time, the destruction of the Worldstone meant Sanctuary was now open to heaven and hell. Furthermore, the original purpose of the Worldstone to control the power of the Nephalem was no longer functioning. The next generation of man saw their return, with their powers rivaling their distant ancestors. This marks the end of Diablo 2, and its expansion, the Lord of Destruction. For 20 years, a period of relative calm and safety descends on Sanctuary, during which merchants and adventurers are drawn to the ruins of Tristram, having heard tales of treasures that lie within the cathedral. The structure is stripped of all values, and New Tristram is built near the ruins of the old. Deckard Cain, having survived the events of Diablo 2, encountered Leah, Adria's daughter, and takes her under his wing after her mother goes missing. At 8 years old, Leah has already been struggling with the same power her mother's had, such as prophetic dreams, and living with a barmaid after her mother left, it didn't help. Luckily, Deckard Cain took her under his wing, and for 13 years the two hunted for artifacts regarding Cain's prophecy of the end of the days. The prophecy stated as such. And at the end of days, wisdom shall be lost, as justice falls upon the world of men. Valor shall turn to wrath, and hope will be swallowed by despair. Death at last shall spread its wings over all, as fate lies shattered forever. Cain had imparted the wisdom of the Haradrim, as well as attempted to try and help Leah control her abilities, largely to no avail. Still, he never gave up on her, and she loved her Uncle Deckard, but that doesn't mean she believed in his prophecy. In the high heavens, Tyrael managed to regain his physical form, and him as well as the rest of the Angiras Council became worried when Malthael, the Angel of Wisdom, vanished following the destruction of the Worldstone. After 20 years, the two remaining lesser evils, Belial and Asmodan, began threatening Sanctuary once again. Tyrael, wishing to aid humanity, came to blows with Imperius, who had always wished to doom men to annihilation. As a result, he forsook his immortality, becoming mortal and descending to the world to guide a new group of heroes against the forces of hell. Tyrael fell to Sanctuary, mistaken as the falling star, and smashed into the Cathedral of New Tristram. Unfortunately, Leah and Cain were in the cathedral studying what had happened, and Cain was thought lost when Leah escaped. Luckily, a group of heroes led by a young Nephalem, whose powers rivaled the angels and demons with the destruction of the Worldstone, traveled to New Tristram to investigate. Leah conscripted the Nephalem to help find Cain, who had fallen a few floors deeper. But the powers of the falling star reawakened the dead around Tristram, specifically the Skeleton King Leoric. Resurrected once again, he began directing his forces into attacking New Tristram, and eventually the Nephalem stood against him. Penetrating even deeper into the cathedral, a captured Templar named Cormac was found, freed, and joined the Nephalem in their quest. Traveling deeper and deeper, the Skeleton King was once again defeated, and an amnesiac Tyrael was found nearby. Tyrael had no memory, even his name or his status as an angel, except for the fact that he had lost his sword, which shattered into 3 pieces. Cain directs Leah and the Nephalem to retrieve these 3 pieces, during which the Nephalem learns of their great power and Leah learns of the mysterious power inside her that she cannot control and does not understand. During the search, the Nephalem clashes with the demon witch named Magda, a servant of Belial and a leader of a group of cultists dedicated to Belial's goals called the Coven. After recovering 2 of the 3 shards and en route to the 3rd, Magda seizes the shards and captures Cain, Leah, and Tyrael. She tries to force Cain to repair the sword with his heraldic arts, but Leah forces Magda to flee with an uncontrolled display of his power, taking Tyrael with her. Cain, dying from Magda's torture, uses the last of his strength to repair the sword and instructs the Nephalem to return it to Tyrael, and then dies. Chasing Magda's forces to King Leoric's old manor, the Nephalem meets Lyndon, a scoundrel en route who joins up with the Nephalem's group. They travel deep underneath the king's mansion and kill the Butcher, an enormous demon left to guard Tyrael. The Nephalem saves the fallen angel and returns the sword to him, which causes him to regain all of his memories. Revealing to the Nephalem that he is the former Archangel of Justice, Tyrael decides to work with Leah and the Nephalem to stop Belial and Azmodan. To avenge Cain's death, the Nephalem tracks Magda to the city of Chaldeum, which is already under the control of Belial. Tracking her to her lair, the Nephalem kills Magda and rescues Leah's mother, Adria, who was held prisoner beneath the city. Adria tells Tyrael and the Nephalem the key to stopping Belial and Azmodan is the Black Soulstone. The Black Soulstone was created by one of the Haradrim founders, Zoltan Kulle. When the Haradrim were tasked with capturing the Primevals centuries ago, Kulle was responsible for creating the Soulstones to help imprison them. After they succeeded, Kulle had become obsessed. He attempted to create one of his own, the Black Soulstone, capable of harnessing the essence of many angels and demons, in contrast to the original Soulstones, which could only house one of the primeval souls apiece. Kulle himself admitted the Black Soulstone was made to ensure humanity could rise above the manipulative influences of both heaven and hell, but the Haradrim feared his intentions nonetheless. They killed him before he completed his Soulstone, and separated his head from his body and drained all of his blood, sealing them all in special places so he could never be resurrected. Adria explained that if the Black Soulstone was destroyed with all of the souls of the prime and lesser evils in it, they would finally be gone forever. She goes on to explain that she has already managed to mark the spiritual essence of Diablo, Mephisto, Baal, Andariel, and Duriel, resulting in all of them already being drawn to the stone. But in order to obtain the Black Soulstone, the Nephalem must resurrect Zoltan Kulle and allow him to lead them to his lair. After teaming up with Kulle's spirit, the Nephalem does indeed reclaim Kulle's head, body, and blood, and resurrects him. Zoltan Kulle reveals his hiding place and completes his life work, finally completing the Black Soulstone, but is killed, once again, by the Nephalem after they try and steal it for their own good. With the Black Soulstone now in their possession, Tyrael, Adria, Leah, and the Nephalem, also aided with another adventurer, an enchantress named Irena, enter Chaldeum's city court and confronts the Lord of Lies. Disguised as the child emperor Hakan II, the Nephalem kills Belial, and Adria traps his soul within the Black Soulstone. With Chaldeum now safe, Leah studies in the city library to find more answers about the Black Soulstone and Azmodan. There, she receives a vision from the final evil, who tells her that he is sending an army from the ruins of Mount Arreat to take the Black Soulstone himself. He cryptically tells Leah he knows what she is up to, and with other 6 evils stuck in the Black Soulstone, once he obtains it, he'll combine his powers with it and become the prime evil, stronger than any of them individually. Leah, Tyrael, Adria, Cormac, Lyndon, Irena, and the Nephalem travel to Bastion's Keep, a fortress between the ruins of Mount Arreat and the rest of Sanctuary. They arrive with the keep already being besieged by Azmodan's forces. The Nephalem works to repel Azmodan's army while the rest remain behind to protect the Black Soulstone, which is growing increasingly erratic. After securing Bastion's Keep's safety, the Nephalem pushes deeper into Mount Arreat's crater, eventually making his way to Azmodan himself. The Nephalem kills the final evil and traps his soul in the Black Soulstone, securing Sanctuary's victory. Or so everybody thought. Adria then betrays them all, revealing she has been an ally of Diablo since his corruption of Aiden. She takes the Black Soulstone, which now houses all 7 evils within it, and tells the Nephalem and Tyrael that Leah's father was Aiden. They conceived her while he was possessed by Diablo, and she was created for the sole purpose of being the perfect vessel for Diablo's physical form. This had been Diablo's plan all along. From the corruption of Aiden to the death of the rest of the evils, and even his own supposed defeat, Diablo planned all of it. Adria sacrifices Leah in order to resurrect Diablo, who now has all 7 evil souls of the Lords of Hell within him. He has become Tophemet reincarnated, the prime evil, the most powerful demon in existence. Diablo commends Adria on a job well done and orders her to leave until he needs her again. She disappears through a portal and Diablo begins his assault on his true and final target, the High Heavens. The defending angels, including the Angiras Council, are no match for Diablo's power, and soon heaven begins to fall. Even Imperius, the greatest warrior of all creation, is wounded by the primeval and needs to retreat. His final target is the Crystal Arch, which creates angels and archangels and located at the apex of heaven. The home of the angels quickly falls underneath of Diablo's attacks, and he manages to capture Ariel, the Archangel of Hope. Tyrael and the Nephalem arrive at heaven and begin following Diablo to the Crystal Arch, defeating Diablo's underlings and freeing Ariel in the process. After a contentious confrontation between the Nephalem and Tyrael and Imperius, where the Archangel of Valor contends that the existence of the Nephalem caused everything in the first place, Diablo begins corrupting the Crystal Arch, crippling all of the angels. The Nephalem and Tyrael, who was unaffected because he became immortal, reach the Arch moments before its total corruption. Standing against the prime evil, the Nephalem, in an epic clash of angelic and demonic powers, slays Diablo and saves all of creation from his wrath. As his body fell from heaven and disintegrated, the Black Soulstone began to fall. Tyrael approached the Crystal Arch and told the council that since he is no longer the Archangel of Justice, he will take up Malthael's position as the Archangel of Wisdom, but this time do so through the eyes of a mortal. Following Diablo's death, the Black Soulstone, still containing all 7 evil souls, remained in heaven. The Angiras Council was unsure how to deal with it, seeing that because it was a man-made object, they did not know if they could destroy it or not, or if that was even wise to do so in the first place. Imperius wished it destroyed nonetheless. Ariel wished it sealed in a chamber of light and sound, and Ethereal was unsure what should be done, and so they were stuck at a standstill. During the time the Black Soulstone remained in heaven, it created increasing discordance amongst the council. Imperius became hostile, loath to heed Tyrael's suggestions. He blamed Tyrael and the Nephalem for the destruction that heaven endured, and argued that his nature as a mortal prevented him from living up to Malthael's legacy as the Archangel of Wisdom. Tyrael knew there was some truth to these claims, as he had struggled to embrace Malthael's aspect, and refrained from bringing other angels under his command. However, with the council locked in indecision, Tyrael entered Malthael's former domain, the Pools of Wisdom. There he used Chaladar, Malthael's Chalice of Wisdom, and he realized his fears were confirmed. As long as the Black Soulstone remained in heaven, it would bring the downfall of the council, heaven, and Sanctuary itself. So Tyrael acted on his own accord. He refounded an order known as the First Ones, a group of scholars, and entrusted it to guard the Black Soulstone. He began considering where it could be hidden, and ultimately ordered the group to steal the Black Soulstone from heaven and hide it in a series of catacombs underneath Westmarch in Sanctuary. For this action, Tyrael was called to account to the Angiras Council. Imperius demanded he stand trial, while Auriel and Ethereal, both of whom recognized that the Black Soulstone was adversely affecting them, vouched for his reinstatement as aspect of wisdom. Furthermore, they believed that he should be recognized as an ambassador between heaven and the mortal realm. Auriel sadly accepted the fact that Tyrael had chosen a path that ensured heaven would no longer be his home, but understood that Sanctuary was where he wanted to be. As usual, Imperius was outraged, and Tyrael accepted the fact that he would never be swayed from his views on Sanctuary and humanity. Imperius warned Tyrael that if he ever turned his back on him, they would forever be enemies. In response, Tyrael threw Chaladar at Imperius and left heaven. While the Black Soulstone was hidden from most forces deep in the catacombs underneath Westmarch, one saw the truth. Malthael. He had been absent for over 20 years, disappearing after the Worldstone was destroyed. His departure broke the unity of the Angiers Council, and despite popular opinion, he had seen the events of the past 20 years. He watched Zoltan Kulle, a human who had embraced evil. He saw the powers of the Nephalem, a group that defeated the prime evil, an act that in all of the millennia of war in the eternal conflict he had never been able to accomplish. As such, Malthael deemed humanity an abomination. He resolved to become the embodiment of death, and with the Lords of Hell defeated, he reasoned that humanity, which was one half demonic ancestrally, was the most powerful demonic force left in the world. With humanity eradicated, heaven would stand alone victorious in the eternal conflict, Malthael reasoned. He established his base in the Pandemonium Fortress, and was joined by Imperius's lieutenant, his old servant Urzrael, and a group of angelic maidens. Together, they became the group known as the Reapers. Shortly after Tyrael hid the Black Soulstone in Westmarch, Malthael re-emerged, now as the aspect of death. He confronted Tyrael and his group of Haradrim, and easily slew the human forces devouring their souls. While Tyrael defended against Malthael's initial onslaught, he was unable to harm his former brethren, and was easily defeated. Malthael judged Tyrael, and seeing him free of demonic taint, actually spared his life. After casting him aside, Malthael approached the Black Soulstone, intent on bending its powers to his own, and ending the eternal conflict. Tyrael declares that the Nephalem will stop him, but Malthael simply responds that nobody can stop death, before taking the Black Soulstone and leaving. After this, Malthael leads his Reapers in attacking Westmarch and beginning the purge of humanity. And so begins the Reaper of Souls. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully you've gotten something out of this video. If you believe I've gotten a key factor wrong, make sure to leave it in the comments below. If you think I should do more Diablo 3 content, please let me know what and why in the comments as well. To get a bit personal for a second, thank you for bearing with me with this past month. I'm not one to usually excuse my laziness, but I feel that in this case I deserve a bit of a pass. I know it's been about a month since I released my last Warlords of Draenor video, and I feel pretty terrible about it, to be honest. Truth be told, the first week of March I had a terrible case of bronchitis, and even after the worst was finished, for 2 weeks after that I was still trying to get it out of my system. Hell, even now I'm not at 100%. I'm at about 95. And I'm sure, as all of you know, when you're sick, the motivation for doing something that you don't have to do is basically zero. But I'm close to being totally fine, so expect a new character video on Garrosh's father, Grom Hellscream, coming up soon. If you want to support me and this channel, you can do so by liking, favoriting, leaving a comment, and subscribing. But the best way to help me out, as always, is to share my video with people you think might find them interesting. Maybe you and a couple of friends are playing Reaper of Souls and your friends don't know the story. Send them my way, I'll help them out. Regardless, thank you again for your continued support, and I'll see you for whatever lore we choose to explore next, because it is always more fun to do it together. Thanks again, everyone. Farewell.